This is the Mr. Chris Hip Hop Podcast, episode number 12. Let's go! Yo. Come on, let's go. Put your right leg to the side. Now jump. Put your left leg to the side. Now jump. Cross your arms, do it real tight. Now jump. Put your arms up real high. Now jump. Put your right leg to the side. Now jump. Put your left leg to the side. Now jump. Cross your arms, do it real tight. Now jump. Put your arms up real high. Come on, now just roll to the front. Yo, what up? All right, check it out. Everybody in podcast land, this is it. Episode number 12. It's going to be a special one. I got to interview my good friend Dina Rizzo. So she's here this week. So I'm not going to read her bio, do any of that. We're going to cut right to the interview. But I want to let you know, I'm going to put the show notes in there on how to get in touch with her at the end of this podcast. And also the songs that she named, everything is in there. The class structure is in there. We got the song of the week. We got the move of the week. It's all in this podcast. So I want you to check it out. My girl, Dena Rizzo. It's a good one. You're going to enjoy it. Sit back. Get your Evernote ready. Episode number 12. Let's do this. What up? Welcome to the podcast, all the listeners out there. Glad you are tuning in for episode number 12, and we got a special one for you this week. I got my girl on the phone. Dina Rizzo is in the building. Not only is episode number 12 going to be on, but this is the first review on the Mr. Chris Hip Hop Podcast. And so everybody just give me a warm welcome to Dina Rizzo in the house. Dina, what's happening?
Man, I feel so honored and blessed to be here. Excited.
Well, I'm so glad that you're on here. I tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit of your resume, break off, you understand what's happening with my girl Dina Rizzo. So Dina Rizzo has been teaching and educating students in hip-hop for over 20 years. She travels all over the country, teaching on several convention circuits, as well as master classes and studios. Once Dina moved to New York City, she worked MTV, VH1, and was part of the summer intensive called Destination Broadway, just to name a few. She left NYC to be closer to her family, began putting together a dance ministry to add to her long list of projects she continues to do in dance. Dina has a passion to teach not only the technique of hip-hop, but to further educate students, teachers, and even parents in the lifestyle of hip-hop culture. You will leave her class not only inspired by the style, but educated in the true art form of hip-hop. Dina Rizzo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. You did a great job reading that resume.
Well, you know what? Hey, and we talked a little bit when I called earlier, and just, you know, I'm really thankful that you decided to do the podcast with me and just, you know, help to reach out to students and parents and teachers who are, you know, wanting to know about this hip hop thing, wanting to see, you know, what they can do, how they can be better at it. And I'm just glad to have you here to give us your wealth of knowledge and resources that you bring to the table. So I just want to say thank you for meeting you.
Thank you. I think what you're doing is super relevant. I've already learned a whole bunch from you just from listening to a few of your episodes. So I feel equally as honored to be here to do this, because I think we need to let people know what we have so we can share. I mean, everybody needs to share. It's all about sharing. Yeah,
that's what's up. I mean, definitely. You know, I think that when you know, and I'm not going to go in detail, but I'm going to say for myself, when I give and share with other people, it's just way more rewarding than just getting and walking and stepping on people to get to the top. And it just brings back, you know, so much joy back into your life when you do things like that. Do you find, I mean, the same kind of thing being true for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel that I have never taken anything for granted. You don't know, you know, in this business, you don't know how long you're going to stay relevant. So I find that if you stay humble and you try to put people on and give out, you know, you're always going to be blessed back in return. I mean, that's a spiritual law, but, you know, it's relevant in everything that you do.
Absolutely. So what's the weather like there? I know over here in Nashville, we just got through with Ice Apocalypse 2015. We were going to do this podcast last week, and I couldn't even get out. We had to cancel all classes.
all rehearsals. And my daughter was like, "Daddy, I'm sad because the ice won't go away. I'm not gonna do nothing." And so what is it like? What's the weather like on your end?
Oh, well, I live on the equator, actually, Baton Rouge. But you know what? I was just up in Nashville, Cashville, right before the ice storm hit. I was there seeing my girl and doing some work there at her studio. And then I got out, and then it hit. And so here in Baton Rouge, it is, yesterday it was in the 40s. I think today it's going to be coming up on the weekend in the 70s. That's the kind of weather we have here. It's crazy.
I'm talking about. I need to come down your way.
No, you don't live here, man. It's hot. This is a hot place, and it's rough, but it is what it is.
Now, and how long have you been in Baton Rouge?
Boy, I keep saying 6 years, but I think I'm coming up on 7 years here.
7 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
7, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So after you went to NYC, and then after that to Baton Rouge. Do you what's the cooking like down there in Baton Rouge?
Well, everybody goes to home. They love the food. They love the food. I don't like the food because I don't eat things that have sharp claws and press little antennas out.
Right.
So, that's, if you like spicy food, if you're into that. But, Louisiana is known for this kind of food.
Right.
And I miss my diners in New York City, and I miss my soul food and home cooking in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you on that. Yeah. Okay. So I tell you what. Let me let the people kind of know how to get in touch with the podcast, and then we're gonna ask you a few questions and kind of get into the mind of the Rizzo.
Right.
So if you listen to the podcast, you can reach me on Twitter at Mr. Chris Hip Hop. Also post the podcast on the Facebook page. That is at Mr. Chris Hip Hop Dance. Instagram is at Mr. Chris Hip Hop. And if you want to send the email into the show, send it to Chris at MrChrisHipHopDance.com. And then at the end of this podcast, I'm going to leave you guys all of Dina Rizzo's information, how to follow her on Twitter and Facebook and all the social medias out there, so you can keep up with what she has going on. So make sure you do that. And I'll also post everything in the show notes page. So if you listen to this podcast and you want to go back and see all the resources and the songs that we have, I will post that on there as well, so you can get in touch with us. All right, so let's go ahead. And I guess my first question I have for you is, when did you start dancing and what got you into it?
Well, I had my first dance class at the age of 7. I was a child that never wanted to go outside. I was a kid that stayed inside, and I would do my artwork, as I would call it, which consisted of like Snoopy and Linus and drawing those characters.
Right.
And I thought I was an artist already at 7. So my mother says, we've got to get you out. You can take art lessons or dance. And I said, well, I'm already an artist. I was already established at 7. And I said, so I'll take a dance class. And so that's basically how it started. And when I started, you had to take ballet. I mean, there was none of this, I want to take jazz or whatever. You had to take ballet before you could take anything.
Right.
Which I think is cool. So that's how that started.
Yeah. Now, did you, was it when you were taking ballet, because I know like here at our studio, for some of them, like we offer a optional ballet class on Saturdays, right? So they have to take it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but on Saturday, we're like, if you're really serious, if you really want to work on your technique, come to this ballet class. And I'm gonna say, on the studio's Instagram, I'll try to post on there who showed up just to kind of encourage the kids. But it's still, I mean, we have 50 company kids, and we'll get about 5 to 10 kids on there. And every week, I'm like, come to that extra ballet class, and they're like, oh, do we have to? It's like pulling teeth. Was it like that for you, the ballet side of it, or did you enjoy that?
Oh, well, let's just say that I was no swan.
Right.
I mean, it was hard for me. Now, when let me say this, I could pick up I was one of those kids that could pick up very quickly when it came to the choreography part of anything. the technique was very weak for me. And the studio that I danced at we actually would start on recital right when we walked in. So ballet class, I guess, would be the class where I should have been learning a lot of strong technique, which later in my life really, really came back to hurt me when we moved away. And I started another studio at 17. So being in that ballet class, I was not getting what I needed to get, and I struggled. And I mean, I'll tell everybody, I was never the most flexible. I struggled, and I wish if I could go back to do it again, the ballet class would be the top of my list of things to make sure I did.
Oh wow!
Did well.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. My dream is to have been a ballerina that just knew how to do hip hop, not a hip hop dancer that knew ballet. That would be the thing for me.
Right. Okay. So now tell me about the teaching side of it. What got you into teaching and doing choreography?
When I got through high school, I lived in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I worked for my dad. We had a family business that I grew up in. And when I was about 19 or 20, I told my dad I wanted to open a studio. Now, keep in mind, that was probably not the smart thing to do because at 20 years old, I mean, what do you know?
Right.
And so my dad said, okay. So I opened the studio at 20, and I can honestly say that I was a type of studio that if you wanted to come and really explore your creative side and dance with somebody that was just kind of taking it from the heart and the soul, then I was your place to be. But anybody that came in and wanted more ballet or more technique, I would send them somewhere else. I never fronted like I was doing something that I was not good at.
Right.
And so that's how I started, teaching. And it really was a process of exploring who I was at that young age, at 20. My Lord.
Wow. Okay. And then what about doing choreography and even traveling and even getting into the convention circuit? How did that come about?
Wow. I had the studio for about 10 years, and so I always tell everybody it was more like a club.
Yeah.
People just come hang out,
Yeah.
And I always say I think I might have made $5 on the Coke machine the whole 10 years that I had, so I was going to count my money. I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing it like how the cats are doing it now as far as studios. There's so much knowledge out there, so I was running it just from the heart, like I said, but that don't pay the bills.
Right.
So, I remember probably my mid-20s, maybe a little bit. It was right when the movie Breakin' came out, so I want to say that was about 84. I wrote to a dance convention called Dance Makers that I had always taken class at. And I just said, can I teach breakdancing for your convention? Now, keep in mind, I had only seen the movie Breakin' and messed around with it in my studio at the time. And then, after I closed the studio, I started seeking more knowledge on that. But, and then I had no idea the woman would say yes. And she said yes. And I thought, oh, snap, what am I going to teach? And I hustled, got some things together. And that was the beginning of the first convention I ever taught. And I don't know if you want me to go into how it blew up.
Yeah, absolutely.
From that, I kept teaching there, and then people would see me and ask me, can you come to my studio? I remember the first lady that wanted to learn hip-hop, as we called it then. We started calling it, I don't even think it was called hip-hop then. It was just breaking, or at least that's how they marketed it. This lady was from Raleigh. She was older. She's like, I want to learn how to do this. I'll come to you. Well, after about first 30 minutes, she's like, I can't do this. I got to bring you to me.
Right.
So that's kind of how that started. And then, Showstoppers, Debbie Roberts, the owner, they lived in Myrtle Beach. They heard about me. They thought I lived in New York City. But Debbie Roberts' son would see me out in the club battling everybody. And he says, no, she lives in Myrtle Beach. And Dena Rizzo was like, no, she doesn't. And they were like, yeah, she does. And which is kind of a crazy story. That's kind of how that came about. I was dancing in the clubs, and her son came up and said, I don't know if you know my mother, but she wants to get a hold of you.
Wow.
The rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now,
I know, it's crazy to
that brings up a interesting point. Like when I listen to your story, and it's like when you talk about how you wrote, to a dance convention, and even with your studio, you're like, I want to start a studio, and you did it. And even though there were some things that you did, like you said, you had to do it differently. It might not have been how as professional as other people were doing it, but you were doing it from the heart. There's teachers out there, choreographers out there who are kind of facing the same thing, and dancers. There's a lot of dancers that listen to this podcast too, and they're looking at, like I'm dancing, but I would love to teach on a convention. I'm dancing, I would love to teach at a studio, or I want to move to the next level in my life. So if you had to take all the information that's out there now I was going to save this question for last, but I decided not to, because I wanted to be right after the story about how you got into teaching. Like if you were starting fresh right now, today, and you got, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you got all these things, what would you do to get yourself out there today?
Man.
If you were starting fresh, clean slate today, what would you do?
Well, I know. I'm always overwhelmed when I think about how it happened for me, because that's really unheard of. I was just a girl that lived in South Carolina that had no influence of the hip-hop culture then. Now, let me just go back for a second. Growing up, though, my mother would always try to park me in front of American Bandstand, and kids would say, "What is that? What is that?" That was a dance show back in the day, 100 years ago. But I wanted to watch Soul Train.
Right.
And so I will always say that Soul Train was a huge influence on me growing up. And so, now I look at the way it is now. It makes me nervous, actually, if I was to think about trying to get out there now, because after teaching at conventions for almost 20 years, I have seen so many people come and so many people go. And my goal was always to stay relevant. Stay relevant, to not be the flavor of the month. So I think I would be so proactive. I would put everything out there I could on social media, but I would also do the real legwork as far as actually sitting down and being very personal about writing to everybody that would listen.
Yeah.
Everybody. I mean, now with social media, how can you not be seen?
Right.
That's the question. How can you not be seen? And it's a lot harder now, I would think, because if you've not been on a TV show, or if you've not, done something like that, what is your chances of actually getting out there? It is doing the legwork.
Right. So what you're saying is that you would definitely, which is a lost art form, I believe, of actually writing somebody. When I receive a letter and I feel like it's personal, it's like gold almost, because everything is so fast. Everything is text and quick, and and tweets, and so when I get something like that, I'm like, wow. And so that's I think that's good advice, being personal with it, when all the noise on the internet is kind of out there. Okay, so let's talk about teachers that you've had growing up. What teacher had the biggest impact on you growing up, and why?
Oh, wow. This person, nobody will know who he is, but I have to say this is a person that influenced my life. He has since passed away, but his name was David D. Marie, and he was a teacher at conventions. I called him the White Prince. He wore those, heel kind of shoes, how Prince will wear.
Yeah.
And he's like this skinny white dude. But the way he taught, and his style of teaching was, I was actually influenced by a lot of the Luigi style, the modern style. But he would teach his style of jazz, and the way he would teach, I actually modeled my teaching after, which he would give you the basic choreography, but he would give you your arms separately, what to do with your arms, then what to do with your feet, then what to do with your head, and then he would tie it all together, and it made so much sense to me. So I have always used that. And he was just an amazing person that really, really influenced me on how to teach.
Wow. All right, I know. Hey, I don't know if you know this or not. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how you and I actually met at Opryland here in Nashville. And at that time, I actually found you through I was looking at the Dance Spirit magazine, but I was just getting into teaching at a dance studio there, and I was like, when I got to Nashville, I was like, I want to teach kids, and I was trying to teach them how to do the face freeze. It's like the first move that they learn. And so I was flipping through, my wife actually had the Dance Spirit magazine at the studio, and so I'm waiting for my class to start, and I'm flipping through there, and I saw you on there teaching the face freeze, and that's why I was like, I have to meet this incredible hip-hop teacher. And so I started looking you up, reached out, found the website, and when we went there, now when I met you at Opryland, I had never taught any type of convention or anything, and so I was watching you, and you actually were a huge influence on how I teach today, just from when we hung out that time, and I watched you do your thing, and then even when I had my group, the Risewells, and we came down to Atlanta, you had me do some things with you there. It just really impacted me. So I just wanted to give you that shout out, because when I think about that, it just reminds me of when things that I do today, like the battles in class. You were the first one I seen split the class in half and have them battle top rock, go downs, 6-step, face freeze, and I was like, this girl is dope right here. I got to. So I definitely still have that, and that's in my teaching style. So I want to say thank you. You know what I mean? I want to take a moment to give you thanks right there. All right, so
that blesses me, man. That means a lot to me, coming from you.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, since we're talking about teaching, tell me your best moment as a teacher.
That was a hard question for me to kind of think about, because I've had so many. But if I was to really, really, really pick one, it would be one that was that actually just happened. And I really had to think about that, because I thought, is this really the one I want to say? And it was. My heart is now kind of towards dance ministry, and I put together a dance for a Children's Cup, which is a ministry of over in Africa for kids that don't have parents. They do adoption. They help all these kids over in Africa. Mm-hmm. And they asked me to do a big piece of choreography for a gala that was going to come here. Now, they wanted all African American kids, and they wanted it in the style of African dance. Hello, I'm like, okay, and so I auditioned, and I brought together a group of kids that ranged in age from 7 to adult, boys and girls, and I put together this piece, and it was amazing when they did it, because they had never danced together, these kids. We had the drummers, the drummers came in, mm-hmm. and from that, just 2 weeks ago, I took 6 of those kids, because we were asked to do it at all 3 services of the mega church that I attend, and that had never happened. And I had been praying for to dance on a Sunday morning. Now, I've done dance, in other events, and we did all 3 services. And what prompted me to kind of start a group now, we're calling it For Him. And these kids are amazing. They just come from all over, and they just want to dance. So that's it for me right now. I'm excited.
Awesome. Now, what was when you think about that, and the reason I'm asking even your best moment and your worst moments, which I'm going to ask next, is because as a teacher,
mm-hmm.
I'll have days that I'll go in. My wife and I was talking about this last night. You'll go in and kill a class. You'll be like, when you leave, it's like, oh my God, that class was amazing, or that convention was amazing. It connected, the energy was there, and then you'll have days that it just bombs on you. Like, I'll stand there, I'll have my structure and everything, and I'll stand there and be like, I'm not connecting, they're not listening, I don't know what's happening right now. So when you think about that, what is your worst moment as a teacher? And it's talking to those teachers out there who are, letting them know you are going to have some good days and some bad days. But we just keep going, because it's what we do. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
so
yeah.
what's the moment you can think that was your worst moment as hip hop teacher?
Well, so there's several, but I think that because I am a convention teacher a lot, you don't really get to connect with those kids as much. But, and then I work locally at a studio here, and I guess, you know what? I had a group of kids last year that almost every time I went in, they were rolling their eyes and acting like they were bored. And it really messed with me in my head.
Oh, I hate
it began
that.
to mess with me in my head.
Yeah.
And I remember one night I just flew out the studio. See, they don't know. These people don't really know me that well. When I'm on my studio, I used to get in my car and drive off, and the kids would be looking at me from the window, and I'd be waving at them. Peace out. They make me mad.
Deuces.
But last week, last year, they pushed me, and I remember walking out, sitting down in the lobby, just going, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've had several of those moments. So I sympathize with teachers, but don't let them get in your head. That's all I'm going to say, because that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So, when you think about all the moves, now normally when I do the podcast, I'll go into the section of the show where I'll do a freestyle song of the week, because I try to offer teachers out there, who are looking for new music, looking for fresh music, and I also try to do a move every week. So sometimes I do about 2 or 3 moves. I get carried away, but I try to at least have one every time I do a podcast. I try to have a move so that, and even for myself, I'll look back at the podcast, because I'll be like, I don't even remember what we did 3 weeks ago. And I'll just go look at my podcast like, oh, that's what it was. So this is kind of like the resource section of the podcast. So I want to ask you, what is one move? And if you have more than one, that's fine too. But what's one move that you think every hip-hop student should learn?
Oh, boy. Okay, I thought about this one for a long time. And I thought, successfully, what I've taught is, all over the country, is gliding. I think every kid needs to learn how to glide, slow moonwalk, whatever you want to call it. Like all of them. I'm not just talking about like a Michael Jackson fake, backwards moonwalk. I'm talking learning how to actually place your feet so that you can glide sideways, circle, forward. I think it's important that you learn that. And I've never even met too many people that actually teach that on a big level like I have done. If you think about it, Chris, how, that's a hard thing to break down. Don't you think? As far as trying to break that move down and teach people how to glide.
You know what? I'll tell you this. I had never, and this again goes back to, what I was saying earlier about being able to hang out and kick it with you when you were teaching your convention. When I seen you break down gliding, that changed my life. And it changed all the kids at my studio. And even now in my boys class, I've taught my older boys the same format that you taught, especially with the side glide, and they are now teaching the 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-old boys. Like, I can just say, Michael, take Eli over to take Eli and a couple other guys over to the room. Y'all gonna be Team Michael, and I just want you to work on glide. I want you to do the backslide, slide around the world. I want you to hit the Usher, the Chris Brown, Michael Jackson. Give me all of that. And it all comes from, and even my older kids are like, where'd you learn that? And I was like, man, I was hanging out with Rizzo, and I just did it. I was one of those dancers like, I just know how to do it. But it wasn't until I watched you teach a convention that I learned how to break it down. And so I still haven't seen it to this day as well. So, yeah, that's super dope. Do you have any... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. But a lot of people, like you said, you just kind of had it. You just kind of knew how it just, and I meet a lot of people like that. But they just have that raw, natural talent. They've seen it, they picked it up. But Lord, you think about how many kids. You stand at a convention, looking out there, them kids looking at you like, what are you talking about? I have no idea.
Right.
So yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Do you have any videos or tutorials or anything like that where you are? Because I would love to post that on the show links as well for teachers to look at of you breaking down gliding. Well, that's a whole nother episode as far as videos.
That's a whole other episode. Because they're not really circulating now. So I would have to say that would probably be a no.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to have you're gonna have to own your Instagram, because we're gonna give out your Instagram after this, and so I'm gonna have all the teachers go to that. You might have to give me a quick clip on there or some glides on there so we can break it down for them.
That's right. I learned so much from you just listening to you talk. Because, see, I don't use those tools like I should. So that's where I'm old school. Keyword old. So I need to learn these things and post out there. So, yes, note to self, I need to do that.
No doubt. Okay. All right. So when you're doing your freestyle circle, what is your go-to music? What is, like every time, because you know how, like, I always have this nightmare, actually, like when the iPods first came out. You remember the iPods that had the circle, and you turned it, and I had millions of songs on my iPod. I had this nightmare that I'd be teaching a convention with my back to the kids, and I can't find my song. So I'm just rotating through thousands of songs, and they're leaving. They're like walking out on me like, dude, I'm out. You're taking too long. And I'm like, hold on. I have a song, I promise. And I'm looking for it. I wake up like in sweats, like, oh, God. Please don't have
hilarious. You know what, talking about that, now here's another thing to date me. I still have my iPod with the circle.
Yeah.
And
I have
because that's just, I move real fast through that. And the other day I was at a convention and they had somebody running my music. I just thought, this kid's going to know how to do it.
Right.
I handed it to her. She's fumbling. Next thing I know, she's like, I don't know how to run this thing. And I'm like, okay, I guess people aren't using iPods anymore. But anyway, I have a zillion songs on there, and this was real easy for me. And I know it's very kind of cliche, but I have to say Planet Rock because that's just my joint.
Planet Rock, Africa Bambaataa, Planet Rock, party people, they all get funky. Yes.
That's it. Yes, that's the song. Every time I hear it, I get excited. Every time. There's not a time that I don't. So, yeah, that's it. That's the joint.
I will say I have to agree with you. I will go off on somebody. You put Planet Rock on, I will battle somebody. And they be like, Mr. Chris is for real. I was like, I'm not playing. When I hear that, we used to have a roller skating rink is where all our battles used to happen. Boy, that song come on, I get that look like on Beach Street. Like you be walking, looking across, looking for the other crew. My wife be like, baby, there's no crew in here. You in the living room. I'm like, you better watch
out. In your head, there's a crew.
Yes.
In your head, there is.
In my head, it is. All right, so talking about movies right here. I mean, I just threw out Beach Street. What about for you? What's your favorite dance movie of all time?
Easy peasy. Breaking changed my life. That's why I started teaching hip-hop. Breaking. Oh,
really?
Yeah. That's it. Oh, gosh, yes. I learned the turbo walk from watching that. I watched that movie a zillion times. And, in my head, I was going to marry Ozone. And we were going to have, lots of little Ozone babies.
Locket babies, yes. Wrist roll babies.
Yes. Easy. Love that movie. And still tell people about it. Still tell people to watch that movie. When Turbo got out there and using that Kraftwerk song, oh gosh, now I can't think of the name of it.
Tour de France.
The broom too.
With the broom, Tour de France. Yes.
Changed everything. Everything.
My crew that I had, we actually used to battle in the movie theater as the credits was rolling. Yeah, and I mean,
wow.
And I mean more than once. Because I think I've seen the movie 20 times. Every time, it'll be at least 10 to 12 crews in there in Cincinnati. And that was our only outlet back then. There was no YouTube. There was no internet.
Right.
So we just kept going to see the movie. And every time we'd be so hyped, every crew would go down to the front of the movie theater, and it would be a straight, full-out battle. Where they had to call the police to break us up. They're like, are they fighting? What's going on? We was like, no, this is the movie. We live in this, son. We live in this. It was serious.
I love that. Yeah, well, sadly that didn't happen in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I sure would have loved for it too. Wow, that's cool, man.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so for all of my younger dancers today that are listening to this, because I do have a lot of dancers listen to this podcast as well, what advice would you give to them, growing up in the dance world? Because you see a lot of dance on reality TV. Dance is kind of everywhere now. Like I was saying then, we didn't have a lot of the outlets. So, but what advice would you give on them, continuing to follow their craft and kind of doing what they love to the dancers today?
Yeah. If they're going to try to further, their dance, I think, too, they need to think about getting an education, that kind of will parallel that, if that's the field they're looking to go into. And just some of the, I don't know if this is, I don't know if this answer goes with the question. I just put down, don't gossip, don't backbite each other, don't try to, if you want to go far, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Stay humble. Get your education and keep it moving.
Don't
worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about it. So you do you. Don't worry about anybody else.
So good, so good. Now, what about for you? What's the best advice you've ever received?
Stay true to who I am. Just be you. Don't deviate. Because I think people get caught up in that a lot. I know I did. I was bullied. There's a lot of things I've gone through, even in my adult life, with the internet, everything, people can hide behind that and say mean and cruel things. They don't know me. They don't know nothing about me. So, and I would find myself trying to compensate and maybe this is what I need to do because this is what's happening. But no, I got to do me. I'm the best me I can be. Yes,
do you. Yeah. And for my teachers and studio owners that are listening out there, I mean, what Rizzo just said is just, don't have those days. There's a lot of teachers I run into that didn't have that upbringing that we have. They didn't have, breaking and Beat Street and Turbo with the broom. This is all a foreign language to them. And a lot of times they feel insecure. And it's good to hear that advice that you just said. Just do you. The kids are going to accept you because you are who you are and you love them, not because you are the best street dancer in the world and you have all the right moves. But if you have a passion for this hip hop thing and you love it and you want to teach that to somebody else and you stay true to you, I mean, you win with that every time, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, because people can spot a fake or if he's fronting.
Yeah, no doubt.
They can spot that. So,
what's one of the what's one of your daily habits that you have that keeps you on top of your game?
Well, that's prayer. I have to pray. I don't know. Some people would think that you just go to a big warm. What do you do to get in your head to do this? Man, I gotta pray because if I don't, I'm a mess.
Yeah. So, I feel you.
That's it for me, man. I just pray.
Gotta have that connection.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So when you're doing your choreography, whether it could be for a competition piece, it could be for your weekly class, or even for what you're doing in convention. What do you have a blueprint that you follow on putting everything together? Like how do you construct your masterpieces week by week?
And every one of those are different. Like if I'm doing a choreography, like a competition piece, first of all, music is key. I mean, that's everything. We all know that. Music is what changes everything. It's what moves you. And if you don't have the right music, you're defeated from the beginning. So, but when I get the music together, I always work from the middle out. Like I don't start at the beginning, and I'll stay in the middle, and I work from the middle to the end, and then I go back from the middle to the beginning, because in the middle, the routine, you set the stage on how you're going to begin and finish by what goes on during the piece.
Right.
You can't tell somebody how to be at the beginning of the dance until they start feeling what it is,
Yeah.
So that's worked for me. And kind of the same thing when I'm just doing combinations. I listen to the music over and over and over again. If I'm doing combos for conventions, I listen to the music, I go get the lyrics, because I teach to the lyrics a lot. I look over the lyrics, look over about a zillion times. And then I usually get something. I'll see it in pictures. It'll be a picture. And once I get the first 8 counts, which sometimes is a struggle, then I'm on. Then it's on.
Right,
That's
right.
On and popping.
On and popping. All right. So
Yeah.
now, when you're teaching your at a convention what is a typical class structure look like for that?
Gosh, at a convention, some people say, "Oh, I want to do what you're doing," so they tell me now, and I'm saying back to them, "Man, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just want to keep my job. Don't be coming after it now." Because
Yeah.
the kids are young. Yeah, I mean, the young ones, man, they're great. They're beasts out there. They're just hungry, and that's beautiful. But so for me, at a convention, I usually start, with a warm up, and I can always tell within 10 seconds whether I've got these kids or not. Within 10 seconds, I can look out there and say, all right, if they're usually smiling back, and they're usually looking side to side, like, what is this woman doing?
Right.
It always, to me, looks like it's something they've never seen, which is exciting. And so I start like that, and then just get them kind of hyped for the moment. And at a convention, you got to be tuned in, because if you see them starting to drift, you better change your plan, or you're going to lose them.
Right, so you got to be kind of sensitive. You can't be like all into just your own thing. You got to. So what you're saying is you got to like feel the room and make changes accordingly.
Oh yeah, and I always tell my students coming up that are trying to teach, I always say, listen, do not try to be the hardest person in the room, because those kids will walk out on you. You don't have to prove yourself. Keep that hard choreography for an intimate setting. Don't get up there at a convention and try to showboat and be the man or the woman, and you're going to lose them. Stay in that party mode. Stay hype. Keep them pumped, because you don't want them leaving, worse than when they walked in, defeated.
Right. So good. I love it. And teachers out there, if you listen to this podcast, I mean, this is good advice for even in your weekly classes when you're teaching. Be sensitive to the students. You know what I'm saying? No, if you look like Rizzo just said, in the first 10 seconds she can tell. And even at your studio, when you come in and you have all this stuff playing, and it's like, I am not connecting. They are not feeling me right now.
Yeah.
And be flexible enough to change course and be like, okay, let's get this party started. Let's get this thing crunk up in here. You know what I mean? So good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. If I had a room full of your students, it could be present, past, or whatever, how would your students describe you as a teacher?
Well, I would hope that they would say I'm funny, because I feel like I get people laughing a lot. I think that's a defense mechanism for me. I just think that, I don't know, it tends to be stuff I say when I'm working. It usually doesn't happen in my personal life, so I feel like I kind of get everybody laughing, and it just helps me. So I would like to think that they think I was funny. I had somebody just tell me this past weekend that they were grateful for and thankful for the way I taught, that I was very transparent. And so to me, that was amazing, to be transparent, because you want that. I hope that they think I'm silly, that but I'm there to do what I came to do, so I'm there to do it.
Right.
And that maybe they see God in me, that they see there's something about me that's different. So that's it. So transparent, that's good. I like that.
So dope. Now, how would you, for my hip hop teachers out there who are having trouble being creative, because like you were saying, you get the song, or sometimes you like when you start from the middle and go to the end. But there's some teachers out there like I'm losing my creativity. How would you encourage the teachers out there to stay creative?
I know, and that's something that just happened to me a few weeks ago. I had to do a piece of choreography, and I've been doing choreography for the studio. This was my 14th year, so coming to them, and the pressure was on, because they always do great with the choreography, but this year she wanted a big production number. So, and they had the music picked out. She does a lot of themes, like she'll pick out a theme, which I encourage people to do for hip hop. Don't think it's just music. Try to get something. And I could not get jumping, and I was freaked out. So I did something I've not done in a long time. I moved the furniture in my house, I pulled the mirrors out. I sat down, and I listened to it over and over again. And then I did something I never do. I started looking through YouTube. I don't look at choreographers. I never have. But I did, and it inspired me. And then that's how it worked for me. Because I think we can't think that our knowledge is, it's the end-all, be-all.
Right.
So I actually had to pull and look and get inspired by something else. And once I started, like I said, and I had to start with a piece of the music. Listen, just because the piece of the music is maybe at the end, or there may only be this section you can work on, roll with that. Don't try to do it in any structure.
Right.
Just do what comes to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. All right. What is now? Was that the only time that you've had choreo block before, or has it happened throughout your teaching?
Well, yes, it has. More recently now, because the music is awful. Hip hop music is awful to me right now. I'm just not relevant. I'm not connecting with a lot of it. So, yes. But now, if I got my girl Missy, if she's kicking it, I'll go back to old school. I got to pull with what I know, what I connect to.
Yeah.
Man, I can hear a Missy track or a Ludacris, and they tell stories that are, beyond amazing, and it was easy. But yes, I've had it a lot. And, yeah. And it's not, it goes away, but it's not, I was thinking, oh God, that's my big dream, Chris, is that I dream that I can never recover from being blocked with our choreography.
Wow. All right. Tell me about, let's go into, do you have a favorite motivational quote? And if so, tell me why it's your favorite motivational quote.
Oh, God. This was probably the hardest question for me. It really was. So I thought, I'm just going to say this. I feel happy for myself.
Yeah.
That little voice.
I feel happy for myself, yes.
I loved it. But you know what? I mean, I really tried to get deep with this. I tried to dig deep. I just could not nail one that was I got to say that I don't have a big one that I go to, but my mother used to say this to me all the time, and it's so nothing, but she would say to me, Dina, you got to think happy thoughts. Just be happy. Just think happy.
Right.
And you know what? Happy and joy are two different things. So, I just have to say that every day that I get up, I just thank God that I can tackle this day, and I just want to be all I can be for today. I'm not going to put a pressure for anything else. So whatever today has, I hope I can tackle it and be good at it.
So good. Now, do you have you're talking about earlier going looking through YouTube, and you were looking for some things you normally don't look at, other choreographers, stuff like that. Do you have a favorite choreographer? And it doesn't have to be somebody current, but it can be, or it can be somebody back in the day. But is there somebody that you look up to?
Right now, who I love. I think years ago, when I first saw the Dance Theater of Harlem, they really influenced me. I thought I was a young girl. I thought I wanted to do that. And I still love them. But I have to say, I got to give props and credit to the Jabberwockies, because I believe they changed the face of dance. I believe that the creativity that they tap into, along with Christopher Scott, not Chris Scott, but the Christopher Scott that does the LX. I think he's the LX dude or whatever.
Yeah.
That guy, super creative.
Yeah.
Wade Robson, super creative. But the Jabberwockies, they're amazing to me, and I love that. I look at them behind those masks, and I think these guys don't care who's getting the credit. They're just out there dancing. It's not about look at me, look at my face. We're doing this together to change the face of dance, and I believe they have for me.
Love the Jabberwockies.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a dance performance that sticks out to you that you saw and it changed your life? And if so, what is it?
I guess I'd have to go back to the first one I said, the Dance Theater of Harlem. I was a little girl. I got to go see them, and I remember just thinking, wow, I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to do what they were doing because they were so passionate about what they were doing. And that's, to me, that's where it was at. So yeah, that I guess it would be that.
Okay. All right. Now, if you were if you had a room full of dance teachers and studio owners in the room with you, like when you do your teacher training, and you were kind of giving them advice to training dancers in hip hop, what are some mistakes that you see teachers and studio owners doing now when it comes to teaching their dancers hip hop as you travel around the different studios?
Not teaching hip hop, taking something and that's simple. Taking something and making it hip hop just because the pressure is on, and they know that they have to come up with something called hip hop. And I just remember when hip hop hit the studios and people had to have it, and teachers were running in the conventions looking like it was Armageddon out there, and they're like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do." And so. You don't put something out there just to put it out there, because people know. We know when we're looking at it, we're judging it. That's not hip hop. So don't take a contemporary piece and tweak it, or a jazz piece and call it funky jazz. Oh God, please don't do that. And if you don't know, ask somebody.
Ask somebody, yeah.
Ask somebody. And, don't be afraid to ask somebody. I have to ask my goddaughter all the time, what's hot? What's new? Can you kick it with me? Can you show it to me? I ain't no shame in my game. Now, of course, I'm not going to stand out there and act like I don't know what's up.
Right.
But man, just be mindful of what you put out.
Be mindful of what you put out. I love that. So good, so good. All right, so my last question for you, Rizzo, is if you're talking to that hip-hop teacher out there, and I know, like I was saying, when I taught a group of teachers down in Knoxville, they was like, I don't know what to do. And when I say I don't know what to do, I'm talking about for a whole year. I need a syllabus. I need a breakdown. I need the blueprint. What advice do you have for teachers out there on how to teach their kids hip-hop dance?
Again, don't front and teach something that you don't know. If you have to grab a student that is well-versed in it, and maybe this is what I had to do when I started teaching breakdancing. I couldn't do all the moves, but I knew how to present them.
Right.
We don't always have to be the best at what we do, but we have to know how to present it. So and I have to say this, Chris, with what you're doing now, to me, it is what every teacher needs to know about what you're doing, because you're doing that. You're taking, every time you do a podcast, and you're handing them a wealth of information that they can take and use from week to week. I just learned something from you the last time I listened to you. I learned not something, but a lot of stuff that I grabbed from you. And I thought, wow, you can't be afraid to ask and to research,
Right.
Just know your game, know what you're doing. Take the time to sit down and listen to what you're doing. I just want to shout you out on what you're doing. I think it's phenomenal. And I'm going to tell as many people every time I go somewhere, because you're doing it because you love what you do, and you're trying to help people. How many people are doing that and not asking for a lot in return?
Right.
It's amazing.
Well, thank you, Rizzo. That is you the best. You the best.
Mm-hmm. So are you the best?
I appreciate you. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It has been very informative. I'm pumped. I'm inspired. And I think I'm going to take your motivational quote. That's going to be my mantra for the week. I'm going to be happy with myself. That's what I'm doing.
Happy.
Yes, be happy.
I love it.
Will you tell everybody how to get at you? Tell everybody how to get with you on Twitter and Facebook, and give me your Instagram handles and all that. Shout out real quick and let them know how to get in touch with you.
Yes, it's very simple. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all Dina Rizzo, Dena Rizzo. All I can say publicly, I'm a terrible Facebook person. I don't look at it as much as I should. I Instagram, and then I put it all out there, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I connect it all. But my email, if I can put that out there, is
absolutely.
dance.dina.rizzo@gmail. And, I put on Instagram. I do post what I'm doing and what's coming up. So that's how to get at me.
That's what's up. Well, Rizzo, thank you again for being on the Mr. Chris Hip Hop Podcast. It's been awesome, incredible talking to you as always. And we got to do some more stuff. I think when, and I didn't tell you this before, but I'm going to go and drop it now. I think when So You Think You Can Dance comes on, for all of the hip hop numbers throughout the season, we should just kind of, just hook up via Skype and break down the routines and talk about all the techniques that are in there. Because everybody will be watching, but then having us break it down on how to take what you saw on So You Think You Can Dance and be able to teach that in your studio. I think that's something we need to make this a monthly thing. You know what I mean?
I would love that, because I never have anybody to get excited to talk to about it, and so I'm always watching it by myself going, oh my goodness, so, man, I would love to do that. So let's make that
Let's make that happen. Let's make that happen. No doubt.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Rizzo.
All
I'm going to post all your information that you said in the show notes page on the website. And I'm going to be looking for that Instagram gliding tutorial, because I'm going to bring it over to my kids in Nashville. So drop that on me when you can.
I sure will, Chris. Thank you so much. It was an honor, a blessing. Keep doing what you do, man. It's helpful. It's important what you're doing.
Appreciate you, Rizzo. I will holler at you later.
All righty. Thanks so much.
Peace.
Yo. Come on, let's go. Put your right leg to the side. Now jump. Put your left leg to the side. Now jump. Cross your arms, do it real tight. Now jump. Put your arms up real high. Now jump. Put your right leg to the side. Now jump. Put your left leg to the side. Now jump. Cross your arms, do it real tight. Now jump. Put your arms up real high. Come on, now just roll to the front. Roll to the front. Roll to the front.